Right. Now, this is one of the most important topics in export-import is how to price the products right so that you can have the profit. And the answer to that question is Incoterms. So Incoterms is the acronym that stands for International Commercial Terms, and this is the set of rules that are accepted in most of the countries in the world, legally accepted. And these rules, they differentiate the risk and responsibility for the product in the trading deal. Now, the important thing to keep in mind, Incoterms only cover physical products. They don't cover services, they don't cover intellectual property. For service and intellectual property, there is no framework per se right now, and it's a matter of negotiation. But Incoterms is the best practice from last probably 100 years of doing international trade and negotiation. So the International Chamber of Commerce is an independent organization, and they provide this framework and revise it once in 10 years. And the most recent publication is 2010, Incoterms 2010. You have a printout here. Unfortunately, they are printed in black and white, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but I will ask management to forward you the colored copies to your emails. The way you read this chart.
Yeah. So these rules are changed only once in 10 years?
Once in 10 years, yes.
So, but I think that the business environment is changing more frequently than 10 years.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. And in fact, they use this 10-year period to accumulate statistics, accumulate court rules, decision of the courts when there is a trade dispute. Because all this, the other important role of the Incoterms is that it's a framework reference for the judge when you have a trade dispute. And the way it works, I'll explain you. So you have a seller here and a buyer here, okay? And you have several standard activities, if you will, that you have in an international deal. You have packaging, you have export clearance, you have inspection, loading into the vessel or container or whatever, carriage, which is basically the transportation, insurance, import clearance, where all these taxes and duties come into the plate, and unloading. That's it. So you load the cargo, brought it, unload it. Now, right now they have 11 rules of they have 11 rules how to differentiate the responsibility and the risk in the transaction. It doesn't mean the transfer of property rights. It only means the responsibility and risk. That's something to keep in mind. So let's take an easiest example, export. In this example, the seller is only responsible for packaging, and the seller only pays for packaging. And if something happens with the shipment during the packaging, then the seller is responsible for that and is liable and has to either replace or provide a new product. And the buyer, in this case, responsible for everything else. Now, if you buy something from Canada, the most important thing to keep in mind that most of Canadians sell under these conditions. They will load your truck. Well, they will have to load the truck. That's it. Yeah.
If you were a buyer, if you are a seller.
No, if you're a buyer, if you are a buyer, if you buy from Canada, most of Canadians they only trade on this trade. That's right. That's right.
So in Algeria we are using folk, and folk is interesting for.
True. And also they just don't want to deal with and usually don't have any staff to deal with paperwork and customs.
These are 11 kinds of sharing risks.
That's right. So
let's say Canada used the first one.
Oh no.
Brazil used the second.
Oh no. I mean, this one they all are used everywhere, and all of them are used in Canada. But the most commonly used
According to the agreement.
the most commonly used is this one,
Okay.
and the other important is FOB. Although FOB, I will tell you later, it's a little bit in this edition of Incoterms. It's only you see it's on the back on the end in the end of the list. They differentiate rules for any mode of transport and the rules for only marine or waterway transport. And they put FOB here, so it's not when for example you're buying from the company in Toronto and they give you the quote FOB their dock, it's not really 100% correct from Incoterms standpoint, so they should actually quote you in EXW their dock, because they don't have a port. We don't have a port in Toronto, and we don't use. Well, we do have a port here, but it's more of a, it's not that international.
So, sorry, Incoterms, it's still 1 point negotiation agreement. You have to negotiate.
Exactly,
It's according to
exactly.
our,
Exactly. The term that you chose, it goes to your agreement, and if something happens with the cargo, the judge would look at the Incoterms. Yeah. Like for example, carriage and insurance paid too. Like in this case, the seller pays for the shipment and for the insurance.
What do you mean by just like if I buy something from China and
Right.
into Canada,
Yep.
and something happens, some disputes happens, so where should I complain? In Canada?
We'll cover it a little bit later.
International.
It's called the choice of jurisdiction. If you have a written agreement, you can choose the dispute to be settled in Canada or England or any other country.
And what is the procedure like? If I order some products from China or
Yeah.
South Asia, how could I check if every product has proper quality? How to check quality?
You mean before they ship or after?
I I ordered 10,000 pieces of something. and-
Don't order that much. For
No,
China, seriously.
like I ordered. So now how can I make sure that every piece of this specific product is in proper quality?
Okay, that's called sorry, not insurance. Hey, there we go. Inspection.
Okay.
Like inspection is not mandatory, but it's highly recommended, especially if you order large quantities from the suppliers you don't know. There are independent inspection companies, like international inspection companies. There are also smaller local companies that you can go to in China. And when I was dealing with this kind of situations, these inspection companies, they do the random check of the container. They have a methodology of how many pieces you can open and how many pieces you can verify. It's like 2 or 3% of the entire shipment. And they also they document everything. They indicate how many pieces are within the scope, within the spec, how many are out of spec, and they also the video record, the photograph and video record. So, and also what's important for here, the container cannot, the shipment cannot go to you, cannot be sealed. The container won't be sealed unless the inspection person would sign off.
Okay, so it's in the seller's end, it's not in buyer.
It's on the seller's end. It's on the seller's end, but usually the buyer pays for that.
This is why we need a good relationship with our business partner.
Right.
We need to
right.
make
So is there any standard like for import something from other countries? So like now we have to found that we have to hire a third party for inspections and a third party for procedures. So is there any standard for like how much how many percentage should I add to the cost of product for
Right.
these procedures?
Very good question. It's not on this slide, but it's going to be in a couple of slides later. I'll give you the methodology how to calculate the export or import price. But before we go into the pricing, this is the important things you have to know before you price the product. First of all, harmonized code. each product, each physical product, they have has a separate code. Chairs have their own code. Metal chairs, they have their own code. Wood chairs, they have the separate code. This one, for example, the frozen wheel. If the wheel is not frozen, it will have a different code. So the reason why we need to know that code, and this is the reference where you can find this code, is because these codes are used to calculate the duty on import. And in some cases duty on export. It's rare now, but in some countries it does exist. So the way you do that,
It's
yeah.
an international code or it's
yeah, it's an
Canadian?
international. Like first 6 to 8 digits, they are the same everywhere in the world, and the World Trade Organization keeps an eye on it. Like other digits can change, but it doesn't usually change the duty. So the way you do that, if you import in Canada, Canada has Canada Customs Tariff. In the Canada Customs Tariff, you will find products grouped by these harmonized codes. And in front of the product category and the code, you're going to find the duty rate. Now the duty rates are different also because Canada has trade agreements with many countries. For example, there is NAFTA with the United States and Mexico, and most of the products are duty-free. There is agreement with Peru, Chile, Costa Rica, and other countries, in some countries in Asia too. So these countries, they would also have their preferential tariff. It's either 0% or less than the average. Now, in Canada, you also would have to add the GST, which is 5%, not HST, that's important, not HST, just GST. HST doesn't cover import. That's important to know. In other countries,
So GST is applicable for any product which is imported here?
exactly, every product, every
Whether
single.
it's coming from North America or anywhere?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's a sales tax. It's not a duty.
Is it?
And Canadians also pay the same tax.
5% for any kind of product.
Any kind of product.
But isn't it double taxation that you in HST you charge 13% and on that product 5% has already been charged on bottom?
But this is a recoverable tax. You basically you don't pay HST. Your customers pay HST.
No, I'm just saying
Mhm.
from the end customer, they pay HST.
Oh yeah, from
And
end customer of
And,
course.
and the products which have come into this country have already been paid for the GST.
Yeah.
So the customer is paying double the GST because if the
That's
person
right,
who is
yeah.
selling.
Yeah.
But normally double taxation is not, operated in any country as far as I understand.
Well, unfortunately, I can't answer that question. But
In Brazil it is, believe me.
yeah, in Brazil they have
So
lots of
tax
farmers.
in that country.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't answer this question, but yeah, that's a good observation. That's a good observation. And in other countries,
So in reality, like it's in North American Free Trade Agreement and saying zero duty is not correct.
no,
Duty is there, duty
duty-
is separate.
let's separate. Duty is the tax imposed on the imported goods. Sales tax like GST, it's internal to Canada, and Canadians they also pay GST. So there's no discrimination in
does
GST.
That does mean
Mhm.
before selling those products, I have to pay GST?
That's right. That's exactly
Anything
right.
imported,
Yes.
So this
As
is
soon
only for Toronto or it's all over Canada?
All over Canada, it doesn't matter. And as soon as you import the product, the Canadian Border Service Agency will give you an invoice. It will state how much you got to pay, but it's 5% of it. The good thing about Canada, by the way, that they charge 5% of the cost of goods. They don't charge 5% from the cost of transportation.
So it's only on the basic invoice, not
Yeah,
the
yeah.
freight.
That's
Freight
right.
is not as part of the cost.
That's right. That's right. In other countries, actually, I would say, from my experience, in most of the countries, they charge the
Invoice.
cost from the total cost of
On the
shipment.
freight also.
Freight, customs, clearance, and stuff like that. And there may be in other countries different taxation, of course. The sales tax may be higher. Most of the countries they call it VAT, value added tax. and it depends on the country where you're going. In case of Brazil, by the way, there's extra 25% on any shipment. So
That's just the beginning, my friend.
that's right. That's right.
Only one.
They're going to make exception for the Olympic supplies for Olympics, but that's the only thing. It can come duty free.
We'll talk about Olympics or more like
Yes.
strategy.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's for the import or it's for the export 25%?
For import.
For import
import.
in Brazil.
No, no.
Yeah.
25% for imported in Brazil. Yes. Yes.
So
Extra.
don't try to be one.
Oh, still they do. They do. Right, then the reference, here's the reference to Trade Commissioner that I was mentioning to you, the part of DFED. They will tell you exactly what are the duties in the country you export for free. It's the
Sorry,
government
I
service.
didn't get it. Ask
Yeah.
the buyer or
Yeah, in order to define, so you can find the
in order
duty,
to find those.
the duty rate. Yes, you can either look at the customs tariff of the other country, or you can ask the Trade Commissioner, ask your buyer. I'm pretty sure you get the answer from either. And here's what you were asking exactly, how you calculate the price. So first of all, you have to consider the cost of goods that you're buying overseas. Let's say, let's give an example, by the way. Let's run through this example as an exporter and importer. So, both as an let's say as an importer, you buy the goods in China for $100, and also they have $20 sales tax. So you extract that sales tax. You don't consider the sales tax. You only take the cost of goods without sales tax. The reason why, because as soon as the product is getting exported from China, the manufacturer or the trader will get the refund. So the HST is the nature of HST and nature of sales tax is that when you import, the government has you to pay the tax, but when you export, the government pays it back to you. Yeah, that's right. So whenever you buy the goods overseas, you extract the sales tax. You add packaging cost, labeling and marking, because you most likely have to adapt labeling and packaging to be readable here in Canada, or your supplier will do that and they will invoice you for that. You add your profit margin. Don't forget about that. People do. Trust me, people do. Yes. Now you add export duties and taxes. This is very rare case right now in the current state of international trade, but in certain countries that happens. You add the cost of inspection if you take it. You obviously add the delivery to the port and shipment cost and delivery to the end point. Again, depending on Incoterms. For example, if you are the seller, maybe you will stop here, depending on the Incoterms. Or maybe you will stop in here if you're selling goods. Or if you're selling goods and you're willing to get in charge of the shipping, you choose the other term, and now you're going to include the delivery to your pricing too, and the shipment as well. The cargo insurance, the cost of cargo insurance also have to be included. Cargo insurance is not mandatory, but very, very highly recommended. And cargo insurance doesn't it only covers in case of loss or theft, but it doesn't cover if your goods are not following specification. So the bad quality they don't cover.
So
But what about damage?
In any
If the ship sinks, then they pay.
Damage.
The damage, yes.
Covered, huh?
The damage, but you're gonna have to prove that this damage is caused.
By in transit.
Yeah, yes, in transit.
What about the insurance from the dock, the manufacturer when he puts into your truck to the
Yes,
port?
yes, it's all included. It's
That
insurance of every single mode of transport.
But that will be independent. I don't think the company, the international company like the one which is offering you shipment across the sea, will
Mhm.
probably not be interested in offering your service from your dock to the port.
The way logistics works, they have partners overseas, and so this way they, even let's say freight forwarder in Canada, they can easily control the shipment in Malaysia. It's not a problem. Modern technology and the communication, they allow
So
it.
you mean say they do offer from the dock right to
Absolutely.
the, dock to
Absolutely.
dock?
Dock to
like-
dock, yes, dock to dock.
Okay.
Clearing agents.
And insurance as well, dock to dock.
And this kind of insurance costs product to product vary?
No, they get the value of goods as a reference point. They don't care what kind of goods are there. They only have a premium, specific premium for flammable products and dangerous products.
Usually how much this kind of, how much percentage in percentage?
Between 1 and 3% usually.
So,
Between 1 and 3% of the value. Yeah. Alright. So once you've added cargo insurance at import duties and taxes, one which we just covered, and the local delivery to the buyer, whatever unloading, assembly if that requires, if your product requires assembly and installation, you also gonna you want to get it covered.
and one more question.
Mhm.
In most of the cases, importers or exporters usually take an insurance.
Yes.
Most of the cases.
Again, my recommendation would be to take the insurance. It doesn't add that much to the cost.
You can always negotiate, to your seller if you want to, because all these points are adjustable. It can be adjusted this side, it can be
Absolutely.
adjusted that, but they should be covered. That's the objective.
Absolutely.
No, but in according to this sheet, buyer have to cover all of this?
No, this is not
No,
by
no, no.
law. These are
It
the
depends.
points. He's just
It depends. It depends on negotiation. You can do like half.
So in a buyer's point of view, like for my case, I'm
Mhm.
planning to import clothing items from South Asia.
Okay.
So do you have any suggestion like which way should someone go? Like which one should someone select? Like
Yeah, of course. If you're the buyer, ideally you want less headache. Let's scroll back. You want as little as little headache as possible.
DDP.
You
This is
like this one, Xworks, is the most favorable for the seller. Delivered duty paid is most favorable for the buyer. So in your case, in your negotiation, try to negotiate either this one or this one. But again, it's just
and my another question was.
it's a matter of
Is there
negotiation.
any common standard like how much is total is adding to my basic cost, the import export procedure? How many percent is added?
No, there's no such because it depends on the product.
Like if
Yeah.
if I buy something for $100 from China,
Yeah.
so when I'm making my cost or pricing,
Yes.
so like 5%, 10%, how much percent should
It's better to get a quote from customs broker before that, because the other important reason is because if this is the small shipment, they have a flat fees, so it's not necessarily like 2 or 3% of the value. It may cost like $20 easily.
But that
depends on the volume.
Depends on the volume and depends. Yeah, the higher volume is the less the price.
the custom broker what you're referring to. Do I understand correctly that they will cater for all whatever the expenditures are there? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Or they are just
They
providing the.
will provide the
Paperwork.
paperwork. Yes. They
So
don't-
still the costing part would remain on the part of the importer,
Yes.
or for that matter, if we have got from dock to dock, then it can be our. So that has to be calculated and that has to be known, that
Yeah, absolutely.
shipment is
fine.
coming from Vancouver, it might
Yeah,
be different
that's-
from River Thames, it's
Absolutely.
different.
Absolutely. That's why we are covering all this, and each and every item is important, because each and every item is.
Important, the responsibility who is paying for it. If you're getting a quote with saying CNF, it's different. If you're saying FOB, of course, it's different.
Exactly.
So, but there are more steps to it, as you just listed them out. So there are many more steps which, you know, I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
taken into
The more steps that you have to get the quotes for each and every piece of this equation. Yeah, you cannot just imagine it.
So you have.
Each of this item has to have a number in front of it, specific number for your specific shipment in your specific situation today. Not in 6 months, but today, because
Yeah, consignment to
shipping
consignment.
prices they fluctuate a lot.
You haven't listed the custom broker fee in this.
Yeah,
Tariff
that's to be included in import
Tariff.
duties and taxes. Yes, yes.
duty and tax. But that will be a factor, especially if it's a small cargo, there might be a reasonable flat fee. But I don't know how much they charge, but you know, depending on how big is your consignment,
Yes,
the rate
yes.
of that, it might be.
Just curiosity, what's the usual time if I import something from China and it is coming by sea, what's the usual timeline, like 2 months?
Okay, so the freight, the timeline from Shanghai to Vancouver is 12 days. Then it all depends on the speed of border services.
No, I'm
agency.
asking like what's the usual?
Usually give or take 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah.
And if you have a container load, it's different, and if you have a shared container.
Okay, then I have to wait for.
That's it, so that time cannot be predicted, it's different
How do you know
from.
Excuse me, we have a question.
China.
What I'm asking, like once it started from there,
Oh, yes.